As far as video game mascots go, few are as strange as Crash Bandicoot, the insane, trash-talking icon from PlayStation's formative years. Interestingly enough, though, the only mascot possibly kookier than Crash is, well, Crash, but in Japan. I'm Jocelyn the intern. I do all the research nobody else wants to, straight from the desk of Death Battle! Let's be honest, when it comes to localizing things, importing countries make some interesting changes in order to help their characters appeal to their country's population. In the case of Crash Bandicoot, Sony executives thought Crash looked too aggressive for the Japanese audience. Their solution? Make Crash kawaii as of course! Immediately, you notice the giant anime eyes with Pac-Man pupils. But if you look closely, you'll see they made some changes to pretty much every physical aspect Crash has. His shoes, his pants, hell, even his waistline. They even made some tweaks in the actual games. The TNT blocks are bomb blocks, and Aku Aku will occasionally give player hints, but the biggest difference are the game's secret videos. In Crash 3, there's a whole documentary on bandicoots, which BT dubs are actual real-life animals. But the real kicker comes from the original secret video from Crash 2. What is this video, you might ask? Well, it's a karaoke video where Crash does his signature pelvic thrusting dance set to his own theme song while going on dates and vacations with beautiful women. Listen, in Japan, the Crash dance was a big deal. I mean, it's featured in most of his commercials. Speaking of commercials, Sony launched a ton of live-action ads for Crash's games, and they do not hold back on the weird at all. For starters, we've got Crash dead-eyeing some kid who spoke up in class. Then he's failing the hurdle jump in gym, which is kind of unacceptable considering his games are like all about jumping. Oh, and here he is in a line of mostly naked children waiting to have their genitals checked. To make it stranger, when the nurse sees Crash's scars, she goes into some melodramatic reenactment that rides the line between empathy and ecstasy. Then there's the Crash Team Racing commercials, where an old man seems to really want to be Crash. So he strips down, paints himself orange, and pops on some huge eyebrows to look like his favorite Bandicoot, as you do. In another commercial, this old orange man, yes, they brought him back, even turns into a go-kart at the end, which I'm pretty sure he propels with his butt. Last but certainly not least on Crash's interesting Japanification is his very own manga, which roughly follows the story of the first game. And when I say rough, oh boy! Apparently the creators of the manga didn't want to deal with a silent protagonist, so this is one of the few bits of media where Crash speaks. And it's not to the Bandicoot's benefit. His relationship between Aku Aku and Cortex takes some pretty weird turns, like when he used a good portion of Aku Aku's body to bake some apples over a fire. Dude. Or that time he hit his head on some ice and regressed to the mind of a baby who just discovered his mother was Cortex. Oh, and how could we forget an entire volume devoted to finding a power crystal only to later realize it's actually a pair of royal nail clippers? Yeah. Fortunately, the manga was canceled before it could wrap up its story, so if you're wondering if it did well, you've got your answer. Oh, fun fact. Another bold characteristic of Bandicoots is that they have a bifurcated penis, which, in layman's terms, means Crash is packing double dicks. On top of that, female Bandicoots also have 2 vaginas, so if you can never look Crash straight in the eyes ever again, sorry not sorry.